All right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live holiday version. This is winter solstice. So happy winter solstice. Hello, and welcome everyone. Great to have you all here. Today is December 21st, 2021. This is episode 136. And again, it is the winter solstice. So happy winter solstice. And today we are going to be taking a look at trait 10. We're going to take a look at trait 10 in quality 3. We're also going to be taking a look at trait 58. So we're going to be taking a look at the vitality of loving, trusting, and accepting yourself. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. So before we jump in and get started, let's say hello to our panel. Let's start with Anna. Hello, Anna. Welcome.
Hello and welcome. Glad to be here. Glad you're all here with us.
Yeah, great to have you here, Anna. And let's go to Shelley. Hey, Shelley, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Wonderful time to get together and celebrate the winter solstice.
Yes. So thank you all for being here. And this is going to be our last BG5 for the year. So that's why we're going to cover both trait 10 and trait 58. So 58 will be next week. We will not have a BG5 live next week. So we're all going to have a holiday this next week. So just be aware there is no BG5 live next week, and we will pick up again in the new year. Can you believe we're almost in a new year? I wanted to also let you know this is something that we have just created. So we are, my hat's starting to fall off now. Thank you for the commenting on that. So next year, we have actually a couple of brand new programs that are coming up. If you go to education and special programs, we're now going to be offering a lot of little mini summits, a lot of little mini courses, things like that, and workshops. And the two that are coming up very, very soon is to help you get into the new year. This is a very important year in moving towards 2027. And you want to make sure that you're starting off this year right. I know many people have really struggled with this last year, really the last 2 years. And I think it's really important to process and let go of everything that's happened in the past year or the past 2 years to be able to powerfully move forward into 2022. So we have a couple of programs that can help you with that. One is a workshop that starts actually in a couple of weeks, and it really is the 5 stages to enter into a new year correctly. And so we're going to be taking a look at, just like what we take a look at here in BG5 Live, take a look at how the background, the frequency helps us really transition into the new year. And that the new year itself is really not the time to make New Year's resolutions. It's the time to complete the past, find out who your allies are, taking a look at what your why is and how to move forward powerfully into the new year. So this is actually an interactive workshop. So it's not a course, but it's a workshop to help us all let go of what's happened and be able to create a clear path moving forward into 2022. We also have a year-long mini course, which is navigating through 2022, recognizing the environmental shifts. So we're really going to take a look at when the background, when the past and future directions change, which creates a global background, part of the global cycle that we're all experiencing and that we're all going through. And so it's a year-long mini course that will, when those shifts are happening, we will touch base so we can all kind of experience it together, to be able to watch it together, to be able to really allow those that background frequency to also train us in those traits, in what it feels like to really understand it at a very deep level. So invite you to check that out. Again, if you go to the BG5businessinstitute.com website, go to education and go to special programs. That's where you'll find all of the special programs. And we're going to start releasing a lot more special programs as well. So if you want to, especially if you're new to BG5 and you want to just kind of get a flavor of it, get a taste of it, we have, we're going to have a lot of little mini courses and summits and things like that that you can check out and become a part of and participate in. So invite you to check that out. All right, so we are in December. And again, the theme of December is these fixed patterns to sell and market ideas on loving, trusting, and accepting yourself, bringing forth this joyous vitality to fight for a purpose that's greater than yourself. We've taken a look at the fixed patterns of waiting. We've taken a look at sales and marketing in the 26. Last week, we took a look at ideas and we took a look at peace. We also took a look at the 26 as well. Today, we're going to take a look at the behavior of self, which is the 10, loving, trusting, and accepting yourself. We're also going to take a look at the 58, which is this joyous vitality. This is the joyous zest for life and the energy for a better life. And it's so interesting that it really moves into the 58 on Christmas, which is this Saturday. So it's interesting that Saturday falls, or that the 58 falls on that time that we're celebrating Christmas. So that's the 58. And then to start off January. So we'll actually take a look at this in our BG5 Live, our first BG5 Live of the new year. We'll take a look at the fighter in the 38, and that's how we start off the new year. So again, this is opposition, stubbornness that can overcome the odds is where we'll be on New Year's. And again, that's part of fighting for a purpose that's greater than yourself. So one of the things I wanted to share with you, this is kind of a little exercise since we aren't going to have our BG5 Live next week. And again, that opportunity to start to complete the old year and begin to move into the new year is really, this is a time of celebration and gratitude. So I recommend during these next weeks is to share your ideas and stories that inspire you, love, trust, and celebrate you. Be present to the joyous vitality of life and fight for a purpose that's greater than yourself. Right? And this is part of what we'll take a look at in that workshop as well, in really, again, being able to ground us, complete the last year and step into the new year powerfully. I don't know, Shelley or Anna, if there's anything that you would like to say or mention before we move into this week's theme.
Not yet.
All right. Excellent. So let's step into this week's theme. So we are in trait 10, and trait 10 is all about the behavior of self. This is the love of self is awakeness. I was like, love of self is awakeness. So it's in a sense, being awake, being alive, being alert, loving yourself, right? Is the behavior that brings forth that sense of who we are. Because ultimately, if we take a look where trait 10 resides, it resides in identity and direction. This is the love of self. There are 4 love traits. There's the love of self in the 10. There's the love of humanity in the 15. There's the love of the body, which is in the 46. And there is the universal love, which is in the 25. Now, it's interesting if we take a look at the 10 and the 15, right? What grounds the 10 is the 15. So the love of self is grounded in the love of humanity. I find that really fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what is trait 10? It's the underlying code of behavior, which ensures successful interaction despite circumstances. It's the role of perfecting our form, its survival, and its conviction, which guides us. And in order to survive any interaction, right, you know how to adapt your behavior, because this again is the behavior of self. You know how to adapt your behavior while still loving and accepting yourself. And this is learning to embrace what makes you unique and allows you to potentially empower others to love, trust, and accept themselves as well. And this is really a commitment to being yourself. So again, this is the love of self. So I would love to hear from you, Shelley and Anna, your perspectives on this trait 10.
Yeah, well,
Shelley?
yeah, sure. This brings up something Karen and I were just chatting about before the class too. It seems that when we chat just before class, all this stuff comes rolling out of me. But was working with a client earlier this week, and it really hit home just how important it is that each of us learn how to love ourselves and allow ourselves to really be who we are, because that's what allows us to send that clear signal out along our fractile and out into the world, not only allowing other people to be themselves, but it is what also attracts the correct people for us to work with to us. And what I was learning when working with my client was that, you know, when we don't do that, if we don't love ourselves for whatever reason, whatever it is that stops you from loving yourself, that sends out that static message, that distortion. It distorts who you are, and then the people that are really meant for you to attract kind of bypass you, or they just don't get to connect with you because they can't see who you really are. And so it's ultimate for all of us to learn who we really are, really learn to embrace who we are and love ourselves for just exactly who we are. And the more we can sink into our own design, our own unique designs, and just be that, that's what allows us to play our particular role in the world. So I just love that the focus is on this right now, because I think this is a challenge for a lot of people to get to that place where they can fully love and accept exactly who they are, because it starts with finding out who you are first. And that's what the BG5 system allows, is that really clear insight into who we really are, and gives us ways to accept and practice being ourselves. So I love that this is the theme at this time of year, to really remember this.
Exactly. And Ra Urahu, who brought in the human design BG5 system, one of the things that he said is that the biggest disease on the planet is self-hatred. Is people not loving themselves. And really, this ultimately is what this, human design and BG5 is all about, is learning to love, trust, and accept yourself exactly the way you are. You are perfectly designed. And one of the biggest things that I get when I work with clients is this validation of, oh my goodness, right? I thought that there was something wrong with me, my whole life, and realizing that there's nothing wrong. And I know for myself personally, I spent lots of money trying to fix myself. I thought that there was something wrong with me. I've done pretty much every kind of personal assessment tool out there, trying to figure out what was wrong with myself, trying to fix myself, not loving and trusting myself. And this is the first system for me personally where I really got to see that there is nothing wrong. I just need to let go of those parts, in a sense, that aren't me, that I think are me, that I think I have to fix, and realize that it's not a part of my design, right? It's not something that I'm good at, and being able to, hand it over to someone who is good at it, and allow myself to do what I'm brilliant at and good at. And imagine the entire world where people are loving, trusting, and accepting themselves and doing exactly what they love. Like, what would the world be like?
Yeah, there's lots of hearts flying up on Facebook right now. That's exactly such a wonderful vision to aim for. And it's, really what we're helping people with this system. It's why I love being involved and love watching those aha moments that people get. Well, just like you said, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm, just feeling more and more that I just need to give myself permission to be me and just let go of feeling guilty or feeling ashamed or feeling all of those negative feelings we might have been taught to feel over time, and being conditioned to think we're meant to be somebody else. That's the other thing I love about this system, is being able to let go of all of that, so you can really clear away the concrete from your Buddha that's hiding inside your golden Buddha, and just let your golden Buddha shine. Yeah,
exactly.
You
Exactly.
know,
Yes, Anna.
one of the things I consider, in this 10 and in the process of self-love, it's not just who you are, but how you are. Because just to segue with what both of you were saying, one of the things that's hard for people is accepting the feedback from the world. Because in this behavior of the self, in the ability to adapt, to embrace what makes you unique, there's, whether we're in static or in alignment, we're always getting feedback. And a lot of times we think, given conditions, given all kinds of circumstances, we take that as a negative. And it's not necessarily a negative. And so with this, to me, certain words like loving yourself, I always go, well, what is that? Fine. The words are great. We can all say those words, and being unique and accepting ourselves. But what is the process of that? What is the experience in that? And so as I ponder this and have worked with it my entire life, to me, it's been about accepting the feedback as a perfect form to help me align with myself. It's not necessarily a negative. And if you get, the old analogy of flying the plane, you're course correcting most of the time. And you're on a trajectory, or you're on your life path, or, you're trying to be aligned, you're trying to be most of your, all you can be, all of those kinds of things. But in the behavior of the self, if you allow the world to feed back to you, and simply little tiny bits of course correction here and there, you stay in this range. It's not a static thing, but you stay in this range of being aligned with yourself, of that experience of, oh, I did okay. I'm good enough at this thing, and I'm really great at that thing, and I really enjoy this, and I don't enjoy that. That it's a range. And as we expand that range, as we allow feedback in the world, we expand that range of adapting and accepting. And to me, one of the most important parts of loving yourself is a certain quality of tenderness. It can be taking a walk, it can be fighting with your spouse, it can be any number of things, or struggling with a business, or some challenge, or some beauty. But we're living in a binary. And so when as an example, we were talking before we got on air, my kitty, my longtime kitty pal, is passing away. She's 11. She's had a good life. We've had a good life together. So there's this binary there of, it's terrible. And yet the other side of that is, this is a really sacred passage. And to be tender with myself, to be tender with her, to allow, that's one of those words again, but it's sort of this flexibility, this tenderness, this range of allowing these phases, not just the emotional wave, which, that's part of my authority, but just this range of experiencing the dark. We're at the solstice, the longest dark of the year, and allowing a friendliness or a benignness to an experience where these two binary things can interrelate. Because trauma, we were also talking about trauma is when we're stuck on one side or the other. Most of the energy's on one side or the other, and the whole process of healing trauma is to get a flow between, and there's lots of methods for that, I'm just talking generically, is to get a flow between oscillating between these two binary experiences. And so the behavior of the self, this loving yourself, is being tender with, oops, I kind of messed up on that one, and okay, here's the feedback. I'll accept and use the feedback, and oh, wow, I really succeeded or feel good or whatever about this thing. It's this range of letting yourself be in a wider and wider range, because that's what awakeness to me is awareness of this whole range. As you gather more information, experience, you widen this range. And to me, that's what wisdom actually is. That's what our gifts are to share with other people, is our experience of moving back and forth between the binary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You have such wisdom, Anna, in how you can explain things. I love how you zoom in on the reality of life, where, we're talking more generic or larger concepts, and you zoom in on, no, this in reality is like this. And that's so true. We are always oscillating between one experience and another, one feeling and another. Nothing is static. It's constantly all moving. And it's, about being able to be aware that that's what's going on, and tapping into your strengths of who you are to help you flow through that, those periods, and being really just awake and aware of what's happening and aware of the feedback that's coming to you, so you can actually utilize it and accept it. I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I love how you tied in also it being the solstice. It's in a sense the longest night, right? It is the darkest period, if you will.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, how do you love, trust, and accept yourself even through the darkest of times as well? I know a lot of people have struggled, especially over the last couple of years, and and sometimes it's felt a bit dark, right? So it's that time to look inward, right? There's and tap into whatever that sadness or the melancholy is, just like you were talking about, Anna, and also find the sacredness within that as well.
Yeah.
Really, really powerful.
Sometimes we need to just dig in and feel it all, and just let it all unravel and see what comes. We often get afraid of letting it unravel, but really that darkness, that dark time, can be the most peaceful, the most soothing, the most healing. I had an experience, went caving with my sister a few summers ago, and we went down deep into a cave with stalagmites. And when we got down there, they made us turn all of our headlights off because we were in absolute pitch darkness. And it was the most peaceful, soothing, healing space I've ever been in, where there's absolute silence, except for a little bit of water dripping, absolute silence. And the stillness was, it felt so alive. And I've never experienced anything quite like it before. I wanted to go back and stay there for an hour. We were only there for a few minutes because some people are afraid of the dark. And that's a thing to really embrace, is that we think of the dark as being scary or desperate or something we need to hurry up and get out of. But actually, it's purposeful to have those times when you can just sink into it and just find the peace in it, get to the bottom of it, let it all unravel, let it all be there, let it all out, and let it just be what it is. It's really a space where you can really just let yourself completely be. And yeah, anyways, that was just a beautiful experience. I know they have like sensory deprivation tanks. You can do similar things.
Yeah.
They're a wonderful way to experience that too. But
Yeah.
you don't have to go that far to really just embrace this sort of time of year as well. Enjoying the silence and the peacefulness that appears in the darkness.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And again, I find it fascinating, again, as we go through all of the different traits throughout the year, how different things show up at different times. And it's just quite fascinating that, as we're in trait 10, also having that winter solstice as well as the 58, and then the joyous vitality of Christmas as well. It's amazing.
Also, in that dark, my ex-husband used to say, I would walk around in the house in the dark, and to me it was perfectly comfortable. I loved it. I love it when it's completely dark so I can sleep, so to me dark is comforting. And I would get up or something, he was like, turn on the lights, how can you, blah blah blah. Like, no. I love walking around in the dark. I mean,
I do too. Yeah.
And also in this binary, no matter how dark something is in our experience, or in the global vision of the world, or if you're in a war zone or whatever, there's always the light on the other side. We may not be, it may not be accessible to us immediately, but it's there. And I love the phrase, I can't remember who said this, but I remember as a child, my grandmother would say novenas all the time, Catholic prayers. And a lot of the elder ladies and the nuns in the convent would have these vigils of prayer. And I remember this phrase, there's women all over, and men, of course, but I was focused on my grandmother at that time. There's always somebody praying in the world. And I found that so comforting in my darkest moments. I couldn't pray maybe, but somebody is praying all the time. And that's just fabulous to remember in this whole self-acceptance, that there's this rain of prayer somewhere. And as we literally start breathing, or letting our shoulders drop, or giving up, or whatever the thing is, that subtle level of surrender, that those prayers, that frequency, that energy comes back to us. And I just think that's fabulous.
Yeah. And sometimes, how the light is by knowing the darkness as well. So again, really recognize the sacredness, if you will, of that binary, and recognizing the beauty in both the dark and the light. So again, it's all about loving, trusting, and accepting yourself. Now, how you get affected when you are connected. So this is the shadow of trait 10, or when you don't have trait 10. So I don't think any of us have trait 10. Yeah. So, so one of the things with the trait 10, again, it's one of the traits that's very unusual because it can connect up in 3 different ways. It can connect with the 57 of intuitive clarity. It can connect with the 34 of personal power. It can connect with 20, which is contemplation in the now. Right. But what happens if you have one of those, but you don't have the 10? For example, I do have the 57, but I don't have the 10. So it's the lack of knowing how to behave. So sometimes you don't know how to behave, or how to love, trust, and accept yourself. So do you feel like you're not sure how to intuitively behave, or do you feel like you're not sure on how to utilize your powerful energy, or are you unsure of how to behave in the now? The problem is that you may not know how to intuitively behave, or how to behave in utilizing your energy, or how to behave in the now. And you may feel like you do not love, trust, or accept yourself in the now when utilizing your powerful energy intuitively. And again, this is what I was sharing earlier. I don't have that trait. So part of the shadow of the trait is not loving, trusting, and accepting myself. That's why I was always trying to fix myself, right? That's part of what this shadow is all about. So the solution is that you're designed to work with others who are intuitive in the now or have a powerful generative energy. And together you can empower the correct behavior in any situation and love, trust, and accept yourself. Just like what we were talking about earlier, when you can love, trust, and accept yourself, you empower others to then love, trust, and accept themselves. I don't know, Shelley or Anna, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I don't have the 10, I have the 57. So I've experienced, the 34, the 20, the 10 via other people and in connection with them. And in terms of I have an open ID, identity and direction, where 10 sits. And this sense of environment, how the environment affects me. I was always aware that I was affected, but was not accepting early on in my early 20s and things that was important. I would adapt, I would try, I would, utilize my energy to try to fix the situation or arrange it or whatever. Now it's like, okay, I'm open there. I'm affected by the environment. That's fine. Now I can read it. Now I can intuitively assess that. But in that not knowing yet, it took some discovery. Also, I have the open sacral. So I would overpower. I would try to do the generator, the builder energy and produce and power up my energy. And when I started discovering, even before human design, but that really validated the process of learning for me, but of trying to force something, trying to activate something. And that's not my authority. That's not my style. That's not the way I'm designed. I have to be moved by something in the environment, by something, and then I have energy. But to just try to power through something, I had to learn about that. So, I've utilized the 57, but I've borrowed these different experiences being around 34, 20, and the 10.
Yeah.
And that's important to go ahead and let those other people show you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think for me, I'm completely open here. I have the 2, and I have nothing else pressuring the identity and direction. And I'm open in all the centers above. I think for me, what I'm just remembering is that having this all open, I've become really, or I was always very sensitive as a child. And anybody who was hurt or not feeling good about themselves or sad, I would immediately gravitate to. I have a real soft spot for anybody who's not feeling good about themselves. And I would constantly stick up for them or try to help them. And it's what I recognize now that I'm understanding more about this. And obviously also as a child looking for ways to learn how to love myself because it was all so open. I think when we're that open, it allows us to experience all the different ways that this shows up, all the different ways that people either love themselves or don't. So that's really what I've noticed throughout my life is I can easily sense or spot the people who have a really strong sense of loving themselves. And I'm more sensitive to those who don't. And I seem to gravitate towards them to try to help them have that sense of loving themselves. It's one of the reasons I love doing this work. I really came to realize after understanding this system is this Open Identity and Direction Center has been a huge shadow that's driven me most of my life to try to find myself, ways to love myself, and find out what direction I'm meant to go in life. And having experienced all those different things, now that I'm here, I recognize that I'm open here because I'm really here to help people understand who they are, help them find themselves and learn how to love themselves, and help all of, I've also been really sensitive to universal love and love of humanity and love of the body. Those have all been themes throughout my life. I've experienced all of these traits in this open center in many different ways throughout my life. So I think that's a way to show how this openness educates us and really teaches us how to utilize, how to let go sort of the shadow, or recognize it, get the feedback from it, and not get too stuck in it, and being able to utilize the wisdom of it to help others in the world. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I love how you shared that, Shelley. And again, it's that, not only is it the shadow, right? The dark side, the negative side,
Yeah.
but on the other side of it, right? The light, if you will, is the wisdom, is the wisdom that is possible in really allowing it to be what it is. And as you recognize the energy, the self, the love from others, right? You can connect to it in a whole different way. And it's not a shadow that runs your life. It becomes the wisdom that you're here to deliver. Yeah. Beautifully said, Shelley. All right, let's take a look at today's quality. So today's quality in the behavior of self is quality 3, which is the martyr. It's the pioneer. It's the futile rejection of standards based on just awareness. And the elevation is the behavior that is ultimately challenged by others. The martyr as an enduring example whose behavior is ultimately enshrined. And the challenge of it is the behavior as a way to attract attention, being the martyr to attract attention. So this is the martyr complex, or the active pursuit of martyrdom for personal aggrandizement. So it can be that as well. So again, just it being Christmas, I thought, and we're talking about the martyr as well in the behavior of self. That's why I had the picture of Christ as well. It's part of what Christmas is about. It's also a representation of what the martyr is about as well. In BG5, we call it the pioneer. And this is learning by trial and error, and being able to, to step forward when something's not working. And in a sense, sometimes when you step up and say and let people know things aren't working, it's not always accepted. Until maybe potentially it's ultimately enshrined when once it's really brought to the surface. All right, so that's the quality 3. One of the interesting things when we take a look at the behavior of self, this is also what's known as a role trait. So you may recognize the martyr in human design terms as part of the public role. And if we take a look at the public role, it's the behavior of self is part of what our public role is. So we can also see how powerful the 10 is, not only in and of itself, but it also really defines what the different public roles are ultimately as well. Yeah, and Sarah was saying, I just hate the word martyr. I think it's a very damning focus. And again, taking a look at the binary of it, it's kind of the sort of the darkness and the light. That's why we use the word pioneer when we take a look at BG5. It's the martyr in human design terms when we take a look at the 3 in the public role. However, kind of taking a look at really what the underlying essence of what the words are to really kind of grasp, in a sense, in a sense, sometimes the martyr is sacrificing yourself for the greater good. So, yeah.
Also, when I think about the martyr, another word I use is the disruptor. Because especially like in this whole solstice transition of the year, it's a normal course of cycles to move on, to go to the next stage. And a lot of that, like Shelley was saying way earlier, is things sort of start to disintegrate. And if you're aware of that process starting to disintegrate, what often happens is the pioneer or the disruptor, whether we're talking about business or politics or anything, but there's a lot of business, and we're BG5, the disruptive business is often the one that pioneers or moves forward in a whole new direction and starts reorganizing, taking this chaos, finding something useful, recycling or resourcing something old and moving it forward. And there's this chaos that goes on at first. It can look dark, it can look whatever, but it moves back into the light. And the martyr is often the one that does this, makes the sacrifices, makes the mistakes, pioneers, goes left and then discovers, oh, that's not quite, let's course correct, let's go right, and this and that. And a lot of, in this coming transition to 2027, there's going to be a lot of change, a lot of pioneering, a lot of disruption that can also be creative. You undo old resources and reform them, recreate with them. So there's this adaptability built in if there's that acceptance that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. And yeah, so I get you, Sarah. Because being, Martyr is part of my public role in human design terms as well. And it wasn't until I really got to, in a sense, that underlying depth of what, just like what Anna was sharing about what that martyr is really about, that I really got it, that I really understood it. And you were saying you get what you focus on. Someone calling me that really is not a good focus, and that you sacrifice only if you cannot live with yourself if you don't, right? And that's part of that's part of the quality 3. It is in a sense, sometimes you do have, if you can't live with yourself if you don't, right? Sometimes it is that in a sense, sort of sacrificing yourself, or sacrificing, even the sacrificing may sound bad, but just kind of like what Anna was talking about, it's in the pioneer, someone has to be first, right? Somebody has to discover what does and doesn't work, right? To bring forth change. And one of the things about the quality 3 is it's very resilient as well. So it can withstand the failures, quote unquote failures. And really there is no failures. There's learning what doesn't work, right? So that you can redirect in order to work towards what does work.
Yeah. There's no failure, only feedback.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
yes. And thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah, as well. And again, one of the things that you'll find, if you are familiar with human design, one of the things that you'll find is one of the big differences between human design and BG5. It's based on the same knowledge. However, we have shifted some of those words that have a little bit more of a negative connotation. Like I said, for example, from martyr to pioneer, so that it is more acceptable in the business world. So that's one of the biggest differences between BG5 and human design.
Yeah. Because it isn't always a sacrifice. It isn't always, the reason martyr carries such weight is that we see these kinds of examples, and this is all we think the martyr is just somebody dying on a cross for everyone else. It isn't always that. Everybody, there are pioneers pioneering new things every day in many, many, many different ways. And when this is part of your role profile, I'm also pioneer messenger. I'm a martyr and a heretic. So when I first found that, I was like, oh my God, no wonder. I always kind of felt that underlying. But when you see it in terms of how we've redescribed it in BG5, being a pioneer messenger carries a lot of a different quality to it, that makes you realize that, oh yeah, no, I can't not be a pioneer. I am that person who loves to go out and try new things and figure out whether it works or not, and then tell everyone about it. And when you have this as part of who you really are, and you're able to embrace it, you are able to live with both the light and the dark of it. It's, there are times when it feels like, oh, people aren't going to believe me because it's too far out there, or it's, the messenger side is that heretical side. Now I understand why I've always felt that way, and I can embrace it, and I'm not afraid of it anymore, because I can say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to say things that make people uncomfortable. I'm supposed to take something that's a little bit out there and make it more common, make it more something people can take in. That's my role. That's my job, to do that. And it gives you the strength to do it when you can see it from a different perspective. So
yeah, love that. Yeah, thank you, Shelley. So I hope that helps Sarah as well. So thank you so much for that comment also. All right. Yes. And let's go to our celebrity. So the celebrity is Diane Sawyer. She has a trait 10 and quality 3 as her conscious core essence, and her life work theme is love. She's a broadcast journalist. I'll have Shelley and Anna, if there's something more that you'd like to say about Diane Sawyer here in just a moment. So the life work theme is love. So when engaging in enriching and empowering individuating behaviors, you push the world towards love through fully being yourself and loving your difference.
Wow. That's so amazing. And what a great example of a pioneer messenger. I can't think of a better example than Diane Sawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, the pioneer messenger, because she would, elicit in her questions, the message that people needed to hear to empower themselves or empower the situation they were in. And she was very direct, and being the first woman correspondent on 60 Minutes, she pressed the envelope. She was definitely had to have some resilience, but she did a good job.
She sure did. And to feel that, I love that her life's work is about love, because you can sense that underneath everything she's done, the way she's approached it, the way she presents it, the way she has such absolute respect for the people that she's interviewing, and the way that she deals with the material in such a strong, loving way. She's a beautiful example of her design. She's obviously living to who she truly is.
Yeah, exactly. So again, if you're not familiar with Diane Sawyer, she's an American television broadcast journalist known for anchoring major programs on 2 networks, including ABC World News Tonight and Good Morning America and 2020, and Primetime News Magazine, while at ABC News. And during her tenure at CBS News, she hosted the CBS Morning and was the first woman correspondent on 60 Minutes. And prior to her journalism career, she was a member of the US President Richard Nixon's White House staff and assisted in his post-presidency memoirs as well. Pretty powerful. All right, so that is trait 10. And I love that trait 10, right, which represents the winter solstice. And again, it's sort of the darkness that we were talking about, right? The longest night, the darkest time, really where you can, and often the darkest time is when you can really fully tap into yourself and the depths of yourself. Next week theme is the light, right? So from the solstice, each day begins to get longer and each night begins to get shorter. And so it's interesting that on Christmas, we move into trait 58, which is about vitality, joyous vitality. This is the joyous vitality to challenge. And when we take a look at the 58, stimulation is the key to joy. It's the zest for life and the energy for a better life. This is also criticism because it's part of the strength of judgment. So it's in a sense judging what's joyous and vitality, what's joyous and vital and what's not. So criticism is a natural byproduct of this improvement energy, right? This is taking a look at where is this joyous vitality not present and how can we fix it, right? So that it's more complete. This is providing the fuel to test the viability of formulas and the directions that are moving us into the future. So this is part of the collective logic circuitry. So this is about moving us forward into the future and taking a look at what formulas need to change or what needs to be corrected, right? We have the 18 on the other side, which is all about correction. What needs to be corrected in order, to bring forth this joyous vitality. This is the shifting others from talking about something to actually doing something about it. It's the pressure to do something, and it's the pleasure derived, from sharing your appreciation of the beauty, the wonder, and the zest for life. Right? This is also part of the logic collective circuitry, which is all about sharing, right? So it is about sharing your appreciation of beauty, the wonder, and the zest for life. And one of the things to be aware of, your joy for correctness, no matter how well intentioned, can be seen as criticism or resisted if not invited. Right. So it also needs to be recognized and invited for people to take in the potential quote unquote criticism that's there within the judgment, because the 18, right, correcting what's been spoiled. This is taking a look at, this is the energy that fuels being able to correct what's been spoiled. Right. And the reason we want to correct what's been spoiled is so that we can once again bring forth that joyous vitality. It's interesting if we take a look at the 58. What grounds the 58 is the 52. So it's stillness. It's stillness that grounds this joyous vitality, right? So again, if we take a look at this time of year, it's this time of year where we're taking the next week off. So it's in a sense sort of a time of stillness so that you can really tap into what that vitality is all about. So I'd love to hear from Shelley and Anna, anything that you see or anything that speaks to you in taking a look at trait 58.
I don't have the 58, but I've been in relationship with someone that has the whole strength in the 58, and when it's not invited, there is an edge of criticism, or it doesn't sit with you right, whatever the feedback is, even if it's constructive. But when it's invited, it doesn't feel like a criticism at all. It feels like you want to raise up and use the energy to create a better life, or to move on with something, or to feel the vitality of something. And so that's how I've experienced this. And one of the things that I've learned is from this is in assessing for myself, does this thing that I want, or this situation I'm in, is this energizing? Is this life-giving? Or is this not? Is this draining? Is this, so there's this, whether you use a pendulum, or whether you're just thinking about something, or you're trying to make a decision about something, no matter what type you are, there's a version of this in your decision-making strategy. Is this creating more life, vitality, or is this situation lessening that? And that gets back to the feedback again. Your own personal decision-making strategy will give you the feedback.
Yeah. Beautifully said, Anna.
That's so cool. I love that you've woven that in, because we do all have all of these traits. They're just consistent or inconsistent. So the flavor of it is there with all of us. So that's a beautiful way to tie that in. I have had several experiences with, I don't have the 58 either, but my father had the entire strength and my daughter has the entire strength, and it's part of her life's work. And so experiencing my father more on the critical side, it was interesting. He was such a quiet man. They're both advisors, my father and my daughter. Didn't know that at the time. And understanding my dad's design after the fact is very insightful. And recognizing that, especially in his generation, that's mostly all anybody talked about was, how do you fix this thing? It's broken. It's not perfect. Well, this will make it perfect. So almost everything that came out of that, a lot of that generation's mouth was, do this, fix this. And being an advisor adds that extra layer on top of, they already can see what's not working, what's broken, and how to fix it. For my daughter, it's been really interesting to help her with her design, to help her understand, because for her, this was overwhelming, because she could see the big picture as an advisor. She can see all the things that are going wrong that she would love to be a part of fixing, and felt overwhelmed that it was up to her to fix it all. So, and being an advisor, not having the energy to do that. So when we were able to unpack her design and show her, no, you just need to wait to be recognized and invited. And that was like such a relief off of her plate to let go and realize it's not up to her to fix all of it. That what she's needed to help fix, people will recognize her and invite her to do that. And that's the only part she needs to worry about, is the thing she's recognized and invited to do. So understanding that has actually made a quick turn in her life, where she was feeling overwhelmed and surrounded by problems and exhausted at the thought of trying to fix them, to within a few weeks of kind of practicing this, relaxing. And within the next few days, people started, she just like let go of a ton of things that she thought she had to do, and felt much more energized. And all of a sudden people would come to her with just the things they needed her to fix. And then she could just focus on just those things to help them fix. And it's made all the difference in the world for her in living with this in her design as part of her life's work. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Great example of this. Wow.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up here in just a moment. So for both of you, if you can kind of ponder what message you would like to leave everyone for the holidays. Again, if you are new to BG5, if you want to find out if you have trait 10 or if you have trait 58, you can download your chart at bg5businessinstitute.com. And again, you can download your free personalized chart. Again, you can also subscribe to the trait of the day if you want to find out what the trait is throughout the week, especially since we won't have BG5 next week. You can see what the trait of the day is. And again, you can watch past episodes in our free resource library, also in on YouTube as well. And it's almost January, so our courses are coming up. We would love to have you participate and be a part of one of our courses. Again, if you are new to BG5, where we recommend you start is the BG5 Foundation course. So hope to see you there soon. So to wrap up, again, my words of wisdom, I guess, what I want to leave you with as well, and then we'll take a look at what Shelley and Anna have, is really, again, spend this week in celebration and in gratitude. Again, sharing ideas and stories that inspire you, loving, trusting, and celebrating you, being present to the joyous vitality of life, and fighting for a purpose that is greater than yourself. So Shelley, would you like to start us off in again, what should people focus on over the next couple of weeks until we won't meet again until the new year? Can you believe that? So what do you want to leave people with to wrap up not only this BG5 Live, but also to wrap up the year?
My goodness, that's a bigger picture. I love what you've shared here, Karen. I think this is a beautiful way to focus on the traits for this time of year. I think that at this time of year, especially with the solstice, I feel it's like a great time for relaxing and really just spending time with yourself, with loved ones, wherever that's possible. But really, to me, this feels like a really deep, deep rest, a really deep rest of letting go and allowing, enjoying the peace of the darkness. I'm like Anna. I love it when it's dark. And I think the reason I recognize I love it is that it allows you to really make all your senses come alive. Because when there's nothing to distract you, when there's no lights or nothing to look at, you actually have to just be with yourself. And that can be scary for some people if they've never really got to know who they are. They're always trying to be some of them they think they're supposed to be. So allow yourself that time to really be with and embrace yourself. And when you feel you've had enough time with yourself to really deeply rejuvenate who you are, that I think that's where you'll find the vitality for the next year, for tapping into the depth of who you really are and discovering that vitality and joy that's deep within, and being able to celebrate then and be grateful for everything you've had this year. And even though it's been a rough year, there's been so much good come out of the things that we're seeing shifting in the world as a result. Much more focus for employers to start to really honor their employees, and giving them the time and space they need to really be themselves and set their work life up in a way that's that's supportive of people. I love seeing that shift going on in the world right now. And to me, that brings all of us to much more vitality and joy for next year, to be able to carry on in that experiment to see what's going to work for everybody in this new world, being able to really honor each of us as individuals first, and then collaborate and work together to really move forward in the next years.
Yeah, beautifully said, Shelley. Thank you so much. And how about for you, Anna?
Yeah, that is a lot. That was beautiful, Shelley. I think it's important to remember that light and dark, things that fit or don't fit, good decisions, bad decisions, are by nature cyclical. That we might be in one experience, that seems to be dominating our frame of mind for a day or a month or a year or whatever. But to remember, when we're feeling dark and not enjoying it, there is light. When we're comfortable in the dark, wonderful, and there's still light. When we're in the light and glorious, it's not necessarily a crash or something wrong when you start moving into the gray zone again, or then into the dark zone. It's a normal process. And every day, if you just think about the sun rising and setting, or every season, there's a process into it. There's the fullness of that season, and then the mutation moving into the next season. So, in our, we emphasize decision-making strategy, which is truly important in staying in this range of alignment. But there's lots of things in the world we have no control over, and they affect us. World news or world wars or financial situations, or our loved ones get into some situation, whatever. We're affected all the time. And it's about how I go back to how more than who, because the who of us is naturally present. And if we're looking at behavior of the self, that's how we're going about something, how we're taking in the feedback, how we're collaborating or not, how we're relating to the people or the circumstances. So there's this cycle, there's constant flow of disintegration, integration, a pure sense of the moment, and then it, you know, the whole thing starts over. So again, the sort of the tolerance level, the range level of going through these cycles, and almost all of our stories, especially those that inspire us, have some dark moments, some total like, oh man, just the worst conditions or situation or the worst mistake, and then the light comes back. So there's this constant cycling. And then in the trusting yourself, again, that's the experiment with the decision-making strategy, or just trusting that no matter what position you're in right now, you're going to move into the next position and the next position. And there's this 360 thing that goes on to move us all forward. And when we're fighting for a purpose, we don't actually, I mean, that is the 58, but we don't actually have to fight hard. That oftentimes incorporates resistance. The fight for life, that question of, is this energizing or depleting, is what will create the joyous vitality, you know, of the season that we're in, of the cycle that we're in.
Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. Yeah, and this is, in a sense, the height of transformation. 10 is right at the very top of the wheel, right at the height of transformation. And so again, it has been our absolute pleasure to be doing BG5 Live. This is actually our second year of doing it. So, or is it our third? And now I'm losing track. But thank you for tuning in. And again, we will not have a BG5 Live next week. We will have one in the new year. So we'll start again in the new year. And again, just use this time to celebrate and have gratitude. Again, share your ideas and stories that inspire, love, trust, and they celebrate you. Be present to the joyous vitality of life and fight for a purpose that is bigger than yourself. It has been our absolute pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy holidays to everyone, and a happy new year to everyone, and look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.